He's called this, we've all turned from normal humans into muzzled masochists. And he's saying, when this madness began, I behaved as if a new and fanatical religion was spreading among us. Be polite and tolerant, I thought. It may be crazy and damaging, but in time it'll go away. Now it is clear that a new faith based on fear of the invisible and quite immune to reason has all but taken over the country, and it turns out to be one of those faiths that doesn't have much tolerance for those who don't share it. And he went on to say, my guess is about 85% of the population now worship it and will continue to do so. The rest of us are, as each day goes by, a persecuted minority forced to go along with beliefs we do not hold. He said, its evangelists will not leave you and me alone, but constantly seek to force us to join. This is why I make such a fuss about the demand to make us all wear muzzles. It's not about health. There's simply not enough evidence to compel us to do so. It's an attempt to force submission on COVID unbelievers. Scotland's tin pot despot, Nicola Sturgeon, and we'll be coming on to her in a second, now demands that muzzles are worn in shops as well as on public transport north of the border. In Texas, of all states, the governor seeks to make muzzles compulsory in all public places. The tiny circulation Guardian newspaper, which just so happens to be the house journal of the BBC, absurdly compares muzzles to seatbelts. And this is the article, if you want to go and read it. The Guardian view in protecting the public, cover your face. This is a Guardian editorial. And we're getting back to Hitchens, then he says they've absurdly compared muzzles to seatbelts and demands that it's in its main editorial, the truth is there is still not 1/8 of an ounce of evidence that crashing the economy and keeping us all at home saved a single life. Let us examine the case for the punitive closure of Leicester. And he goes on to discuss that a little bit more. And then he follows with this. He's saying the obsession with telling us how to look and turning us from normal humans into submissive, mouthless flock animals, all decked out in a compulsory uniform, is, in my view, part of an unprecedented assault on our personal liberty in general. And then he mentions a letter that he's received from a member of the public. So let's have a look at what she said to him. I run a small coffee shop, and when the state decreed I reopened for takeaway, I was allowed also by the local council to use a small area outside my premises for people to sit down and drink their takeaways. Occasionally, when the weather had been bad or someone with an infirmity hasn't been able to take their drink away, I've let them sit inside. So this is a letter to Peter Hitchens. It goes on to say, this morning I was visited by the police and warned. I was informed that 2 complaints have been made against me for serving drinks inside the premises, all for making someone a cup of tea and being human enough to let them have it inside. And she goes on to say that, of course, at the point she had been burgled a year before, the police weren't too concerned or willing to get involved in helping at that point. But, reports from the public are acted on straight away. And then he finishes the article by making the point that the political cleansing of our schools and universities continues ferociously, and that basically they have, become mouthpieces for this policy. I thought it was a hugely important article, David. I'm just interested in what you think from what you've heard there.
I think that's fantastic. I mean, it raises so many important issues. I love the Tin Pot Despot reference to Nicola Sturgeon. We might come to that in extra time. I've been collecting nicknames, but I didn't have that one. The idea that we're in a situation where it's evangelical, it's a religious type fervor we're facing, and we're seeing that most of the population has given themselves over to this and are informing on those who won't to the police is very key, because that brings in with it echoes of East Germany, echoes of the Stasi, echoes of a fundamental loss of liberty when the society no longer values it, and anyone who stands out from that norm is therefore a target. These are very important points that Hitchens makes here. And likewise, the schools and universities pushing this hard. I had a story from Scotland today where someone was trying to get on a train. They had a mask in their pocket because you have to wear a mask on a train. They were on the platform and they got into an argument with a police officer. There was only one person on the platform apart from the police, and they were forcing the idea that you must put the mask on because you're on railway property. Completely irrational, utterly irrational, but that's how people are responding with this strange, excessive, quasi-religious fervour.
I'll just add to that, David, you've used the word religious. People are pointing out that actually the focus has been on death. So we've really got a death cult as opposed to just a religion at work.